This video is step 2 for your color scheme painting unit. This video will walk you through your first boot camp activity of color mixing. We're going to start by talking a little bit about analogous color schemes. An analogous color scheme uses 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. For example, yellow, yellow-green, and green could be used together to create an analogous color scheme. This example uses one primary color, one secondary color, and an intermediate color. Well, what are the intermediate colors? The intermediate colors, which are also known as the tertiary colors, are the 6 colors on the color wheel that are made by mixing a neighboring pair of colors, one being a primary color and the other being a secondary color. In the mentioned example, yellow and green would be mixed together to create yellow-green. Now the primary color is always listed first in an intermediate color. Today you will be working on mixing all 6 intermediate colors. The intermediate colors are red-orange, yellow-orange, yellow-green, blue-green, blue-violet, and red-violet. Now when mixing paint, you're going to also need a craft stick. Okay, try to use your craft sticks as long as you can to avoid waste in the art room. You're always going to mix your darker paint color into your lighter paint color. So I'm going to start by mixing my red-orange. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to scoop out some of my orange paint into the well that is next to my red. Once I feel like I have enough to fill my section, I'm going to take just a little bit of the red and stir it into the orange. Now with a lot of your color combinations, it's not going to take a lot of your darker color to change the lighter color. Now if I feel like this is not red enough, obviously I add more red to it. If I feel like that I've gone too dark, then obviously I need more orange paint. Now once I have that color mixed thoroughly, I'm going to take my paintbrush, making sure that I have paint on the bristles of the brush only, and I'm going to paint nice long brush strokes, filling in that box. Again, I stress neatness as something that's important, but your craftsmanship is not what I'm grading you on here. Now, if I were to not mix enough paint, I would just need to mix more. The problem with that is that it's very hard to mix the exact same color 2 times. So it's always best to try to mix enough to cover. Don't forget though, less is still more when working with paint. Now to successfully have an intermediate color, I'm going to have a color that is about halfway between my 2 colors that I'm using. Now at some point along the way, your palette is going to get full, you're going to run out of space and you are going to have to clean it. A little trick that while you're working, if you are done with a specific color, you can mix into that specific color. So for example, I've already mixed my red-orange and my yellow-orange, so I'm technically done with this yellow paint. So to make yellow-green, I could take some of my green paint and mix it directly into what used to be my pure yellow section. I'm not going to be able to do all of my boot camp activities without washing my palette at some point. So I might as well go ahead and use up as much of the paint that I have in my palette as I possibly can. Now as I finish up my color mixing boot camp here, I'm going to remind you that there are a lot of different intermediate colors that you could make. What I'm going to be looking for and what you should be looking for is a noticeable change between the 2. Now, as I'm finishing up my red-violet here, if I look towards the top of my paper, I can see that my red-orange is starting to look its final color, because the paint always looks a little bit different wet versus dry. Now, if I don't think that that looks different enough from the red and from the orange, I could always paint another color on top of that dry paint there. I, however, think this looks okay, and especially on your boot camp, you know, it'll be fine. But if you needed to, paint wet paint on top of a dry layer. Now that I have all of my intermediate colors completed, you are now going to be ready to move on to video 3, which discusses value.